So we're in chapter 8, and we're discussing, again, it's a fundraising letter, but the truth is the letter topic is davening. The Alter Rebbe starts off again, Zarei Tzedakah, planting tzedakah, and we quote right away a story of Rabbi Elazar. Before he would daven, he would give a poor person a coin, as it says, with tzedek echzeh panecha. With tzedek could also be with tzedakah, I see your face. And he'd go there, and then he would daven. So there's a couple things to figure and understand here. One of the fascinating ideas here, it doesn't say with tzedakah, I will have successful prayer. You know, sometimes you can figure, I'll give a tzedakah, a coin to the charity box, and he asks my aunt, should be have a refuah shalema, I'll be more successful. It's not what it says here. With tzedakah, echzeh panecha, with tzedakah, I will see your face, which means it's not about the result of davening, it's about the experience of davening. If you want davening to be the experience where you see godliness, give tzedakah. So in other words, we're not talking here about davening being successful. In the previous letters earlier, we talked about davening, tzedakah and davening together. We spoke about davening as a time of redemption. You're released from the limitations of the world. And we said just like tzedakah brings about redemption, tzedakah brings about davening should be more free. Here we're talking about the experience of davening. What does that mean? That during davening, we should have the ability to sense godliness. You see, in the world, we have a very limited amount of godliness. Godliness is concealed. It's like, one of the metaphors given, it's like black clouds blocking the sun. And when you sit down to daven, if you're lucky, maybe once a year, once a month, once a week, once in 10 years, you'll feel those clouds opening up and the sun will come through. You will experience, it's like a window. It's like a window. That's why he says here, Havaya Yagia Chashki. Hashem will give light into my darkness. He'll make it light, which means davening is an opportunity to see and sense godliness. So the tzedakah somehow, that's what we want to talk about. How does tzedakah make this happen? So we started off saying that truth is this, that during davening, a person experiences such holiness, such serenity, such truth, such light, such godliness is a gift. It comes from God's kindness. It's chesed. And we have to somehow elicit that chesed, wake that up. So in other words, the key to know, and that's what we're up to in the chapter now, is that this idea that Hashem, during our davening, will allow us to feel and experience a spiritual experience. This is the result of Hashem's kindness. Hashem's kind. Hashem's good. But it's something more than that. And this is really one of the beautiful ideas. How Chassidus turns things on his head. This is one of those things that turn around. But first, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shakol nivray. What is that? He says, you see, there's two ways to see the world of prayer and needs. One way is, why do we daven? Because we have needs. I need a relative to feel good. I need parnasa. I need my children to be happy. I need my husband to whatever. All the things that a person needs. It's not how Chassidus understands it. Just the opposite. Why do we have needs? Why do we have needs? So we should daven. Meaning, Hashem gives us needs in the first place only so we should daven. It's not meaning that davening is there. You know, I saw from the Rebbe once a strong expression the Rebbe says about writing letters and reporting good news and sharing with him good things that you're doing. He says, then you won't need to come to writing letters asking for blessings. What does that mean? If you have to come and daven. There's a beautiful story that I heard from Dubi about his grandfather. That when he started off being a rabbi, so the Rebbe told him to follow his heart, his mind, what he tells him. He had a guy come to him who doesn't come to shul. And the guy told him that my father's very sick and he might possibly pass away. What should I do? The doctors are very concerned. So Rabbi Shachar asks him, if your father passes away, God forbid, are you going to come to shul and say Kaddish every day? He said, of course, how can I not? He says, why don't you come to shul now every day? So Hashem shouldn't find another way to bring you to shul. And maybe your father will get better. And sure enough, he started coming to shul and his father got better. And he actually called the Rebbe. The Rebbe said he gave the right answer. And he asked me for a blessing. I need some backup here. But the point is, Hashem wants to bring us into the shul. He has different ways to do it. I have a thing that I started out with my kids years ago. Whenever something good happens, say a chapter of Tillim. Hashem wants you to say Tillim. He has two ways to do it. He can give you a bit of a challenge, and you say Tillim, or he gives you good news. I say, whenever something good happens to you in life, say a chapter of Tillim. Hashem says, this guy, I don't have to give trouble. I got you to say Tillim by making something good happen to you. In other words, Hashem wants you to daven, so he gives you needs. Where do you see it openly? Because it says Hashem has a pleasure in the praise of tzaddikim. What did he do? All the matriarchs were born that they couldn't have children. Why couldn't Hashem make that Sarah, she was barren, Rivka was barren, Rachel was barren, Leah was a whole other story. It says because of her hardship growing up, Hashem gave her right away. She had a very difficult childhood because she was always imagining she's getting stuck with Esav, the whole story. So basically Hashem gave her right away. But in general, great people had this challenge. I'd have to tell you about the Rebbe's in Chaim Mushka and others. In other words, why does Hashem do it? Hashem loves to hear our prayers, but he loves holy people. So he takes the holy people and he gives them certain challenges, like the mothers, he gave them their challenge. And therefore they had to pray. Same thing we find with Chana. Chana, the famous story in the Haftarah, the mother of Shmuel. Hashem didn't give her a child until she prayed. In other words, Hashem wants you to pray. So why do you have needs in the first place? To pray. So in other words, whenever a thing happens in life, right away do a prayer, and therefore you're covering it and it's done. There's another similar idea. I saw a fascinating story in the Sheikh Abad a number of years ago, where this woman writes the article that she or her husband, I forgot who, was in the hospital, and while it was there, they met someone else who was Jewish, and they made sure that person either lit Shabbos candle, I forgot what it was some mitzvah they did. And she told the Rebbe, this is what she writes in the article, she told the Rebbe that I found this opportunity in the hospital to go and do a mitzvah with someone else, and I put that in the article. So the Rebbe tells her, did you also write in the article that the whole reason you're in the hospital in the first place was to find this person? In other words, Hashem put you in the hospital just to find that person to, let's say, to Shabbos candles. As soon as you do that, you're done. You go home now. They can get you better. Meaning you have to figure out why you're in that circumstance. In other words, Hashem gives us needs, so we should pray. In other words, prayer is not a means to an end. Prayer is not a response to a situation. Prayer is the goal. How you get there, now we can talk about it. But prayer is the destination. It's not the results of prayer. That's what it says. I, with tzedakah, will get to experience prayer, because most people don't experience prayer. They experience asking Hashem for stuff. They experience a nice, spiritual time. But to truly feel the light, the warmth, the godly experience, that's an absolute gift from God. And now we have to understand, how does tzedakah make that gift happen? So, because we said, the truth is that the fact that Hashem gives us this blessing, this clouds parting and let the sun shine through, is an absolute kindness. And he gives a metaphor at the end of the last section. He says, it's b'shem chesed Hashem, hamachunde b'shem mayim. It's like water. It comes from a high place to a low place. Okay, that's the end of the first section of this chapter. Now starts the second chapter, but we have a question. And the Alter Rebbe starts off the second section addressing this question. What's our question? The rule of chesed is very interesting. When you do kindness to people, it's not because they earned it. You decided you have a neighbor that you know that doesn't have someone to make supper for them, or just had a hard time. You bring over supper to their house. Why are you bringing them supper? They didn't pay you money. They didn't earn it. You didn't owe them. Why? Because you're feeling kindness. Kindness comes from me giving kindness to you. So the question is, if Hashem is giving us a experience of davening, it is a real way where we see godliness and we feel spiritual as chesed, why do you have to get stuck to make it happen? Chesed is just the opposite. Chesed doesn't, he's saying, I got to pay for it. Chesed should happen on its own. Kindness doesn't come because, you know what? I'm going to do kindness to you. Because you did something for me, I'm doing something for you. That's not kindness. That's called reciprocating. That's called, you were good to me, I'll be good to you. You wash my hands, I wash your hands. We take care of each other. Chesed means without it being solicited, without being elicited, or no one earned it, I'm going to go and do something for you. If that's the case, why does davening require tzedakah to experience this? Why can't we just go and daven? And if you're lucky, Hashem will shower upon you chesed. That's the question we have in our heads. I just have the next section. Okay. We know that we have an issue. This would have been a very good question if the only source and the only force in the spheres and the godly expression was chesed. But we have another guy, he's called Gvura. Gvura is the one that says hold back. Din. Din a lot of times is looked at as very restrictive. A lot of times we spend about a mother compared to a father's chesed, a mother's din, which seems over there to say, whoa, who's kinder? The difference is fathers don't consider what's needed, they just consider, okay, candy for everybody. Whereas a mother says, okay, come eat your supper, here's what you need, this kid needs more, this kid needs less. Din means I measure. But when you're measuring, it also means It's not a freebie. So din is not a negative, it's a positive, but it's a certain style. If that's the case, if din means I measure to see what each one needs and deserves, if that's the case, there's a problem. When we want Hashem's chesed, who said chesed is going to, maybe today we're doing din. Maybe today's a Gevurah day. In other words, just because Hashem's davening experience comes from chesed, doesn't mean that chesed is being turned on. The switch. It might be today's a Gevurah. Din, you're not getting it. So the Alter Rebbe's answer is, it's true that davening's experience, to get it, is a gift from Hashem. It's an absolute gift. For you to sit and daven, the expression I saw in Steinsaltz is, it could happen to you once in a month, once in a year, once in 10 years, to have a real davening experience where you're sitting there and you just feel good. Some people do every day. It depends how fortunate you are. There's a lot of factors. We can be distracted. We have things in our head. There's a lot of reasons why we can't focus. He says, if it's chesed, why do you have to do something? You have to make an effort to elicit this chesed, because there might be gvura. Meaning there's two ways Hashem gives. Either Hashem gives with kindness, or Hashem gives with measuring. If he gives it measuring, it's not coming so easy. If he gives with kindness, the doors are open. It's full kindness ahead. So he says, this is what he says. In addition to the midah of chesed that's found above, we also have the midah of gevura. Gevura, we know, is contraction. By the way, it's a good contraction. The mother says, no, one candy is enough. Hashem says rain's not coming down 100 billion gallons at once. It's going to come down in tiny droplets. Hey, why are you being so cheap? Tiny droplets? Trust me, it's in your benefit. Things that are coming in smaller, restricted ways are a benefit, but it's a restriction. It's measured. So you have above, not just chesed, you have also tzimtzum, which is hastir. Its job is to contract and to conceal. God's light, and we shouldn't see it here. And that's important. If we would see godliness, we'd like to say if we could see atoms. If I could see atoms, I wouldn't have an easy time seeing the time here. Or I would see a bunch of atoms, I would be able to find the top of the cup if all I saw was atoms. Hashem makes it. We can't see on the atomic level. We see we have a certain width that we see. Therefore, it's a kindness. If Hashem would show us the light and everything is godliness, I couldn't function. I couldn't earn a job. I couldn't earn a living. I couldn't keep my teeth because it's all godliness. Hashem says, okay, I'm going to conceal myself. But it's concealment. Hashem's not seeing. Now, maybe it's too much. 1 second. Now I can't see God at all. I don't see God. Where's God? So this struggle is what we're talking about here, is when you come into davening. So what do you do to alleviate that, or to help you get chesed, to get more light? You give a coin to a poor man. That's what he says here. We have a very famous rule, we spoke about it many times. Everything works with Hashem. A awakening from below that awakens above, awakening from above that awakens below. There's always either we are doing something to awaken Hashem, or Hashem is doing something to awaken us. The usual way it's explained is Hashem does something to awaken us a little bit. We go and do something more than that, and Hashem responds even bigger. That's usually the process. Like the month of Elul, for example. The month of Elul, Hashem, the king is in the field. That makes us, that's what does that mean? That Hashem is accessible, suddenly we're inspired. We're feeling a little more, the mood of tshuva. So we go and get serious and start learning and davening and preparing for Tishrei. And then Hashem responds with a much bigger gift. But it's always one inspiring the other. But the general process is we do something that inspires from above. In other words, Hashem responds to us. We go and say Hashem, it says Haba Latar, somebody who wants to change their life and become on a proper path, Hashem will help you. Somebody who wants to go and become wicked, Hashem will help you. Like the famous one, whatever you want to succeed in life, you'll do. You want to succeed in good, you'll succeed in good. You want to succeed in failure, you want to go in a bad path, a not good path, Hashem will help you. But you decide, you make the initiation, Hashem will assist you. And that's how it works, unfortunately. Or fortunately, he says, now, when you come to davening, you want to have now the chesed, start the ball rolling with chesed. He says, therefore, Hakol toli b'isarusado sata, she'ima adam misnag b'chasidus. If a person's going to act, here it means kindness. Usually chasidus means piety. Here it means kindness. Lahashpia chayim v'chesed d'cholu. And he says, you know what? I'm going to go, there's a poor man in our shul. He doesn't have what to eat. I'm going to give him $20 before I daven. I'm going to give him $1 before I daven. I'll give him a quarter. I'm going to go do something kind for a poor person. Hashem says, you know what? I'll do something for you. I remember, I think I told you this once, that when I was in 770, there's always these people asking for tzedakah. So I used to say to a guy next to me, I don't trust these guys. I think they all have like scams. They come, this is their job. They come and collect. I think that someone told me they drive nice cars or they go home, whatever. Don't look so close at them. They're asking, give them. You want Hashem to look so close at you? When you ask, don't treat them like you want God to treat you. They ask you, give them. Don't say, do you really deserve it? Are you true? Don't ask so many questions. God won't ask you so many questions. But in other words, if I am acting with kindness to someone else, Hashem will do the same to me. And by the way, we're sitting in a room where people give a lot of tzedakah in this room. Hashem should give, and online, Hashem should give all of us and all of you tremendous chesed for all the things that you need. So he says, and this is what happens above. That's what you're waking above, like our sages tell us. So in the way that you treat, you act in midas, or you measure, Hashem does to you. How you act, Hashem will do in turn to you. You're kind, Hashem is kind to you. You're very judgmental, Hashem will be judgmental to you. You're very critical of others, Hashem will be critical of you. This is one of the reasons why the Rebbe actually quotes this in one of his Mamorim, and he says, what does it mean, din v'cheshbon? A lot of times you talk about that when we get up to heaven, it's din v'cheshbon. Why din v'cheshbon? Usually din means judgment, cheshbon means calculation. Shouldn't it be cheshbon v'din? Shouldn't it be first you make a calculation, then you make the judgment? Why does it say din, judgment, and cheshbon, the calculation? So he answered, the din actually happened a long time ago. What happens? Hashem shows you and other people everything you do. You're a person that does a certain behavior, Hashem will show it to you and someone else. And you go, that guy deserves this, that guy deserves that. And Hashem will say, okay, you already made the din. Now we just got to make the cheshbon to apply it to you. In other words, how you see others, how Hashem sees you. Everything, how you interact, it's amazing how that is a reciprocal system. This is the famous thing we just had in Mitzrayim, why Pari said he's going to drown the Jews in the Nile River, the babies. He said, you know what? God promised never to bring a flood again. He always responds. He can't respond otherwise. He has to get me. I'm drowning kids. He has to drown me, but he can't, so it's safe. But Hashem said, I won't bring the water to you, but I can bring you to the water. Meaning Hashem said, I won't bring you a flood to the world, but you come into the river that I can take care of. And Hashem brings him into the Red Sea. As we know. And the same thing we find all through time. We have, we'll come up to it, is it this week or next week? Where Miriam gets Saras after the Seder Chumash. But basically where she has Saras after she talks about Moshe Rabbeinu, and she has to go out of the camp for 7 days. So the whole Jewish people wait for her. Why? Because she waited with Moshe. When Moshe was a baby, she waited for a little while by the water. Every time you see people are repaid for this, Hashem does it back to you, but always more. That's the good news. He has a much bigger pocketbook. So now we see it inside. So that's the answer. So the Alter asks a question now. He says, that's a very good story and a good theory. And it's true. Hashem responds to people based on your behavior. Hashem is a reciprocal God. That's one of the beautiful things. Hashem treats us like we treat people. It's the most fair way to function. But there's a problem. It has to be realistic. You see, when it comes to what's the reward for doing a mitzvah and giving life to someone in this world, let's say you get Olam Haba. What's Olam Haba and Olam Hazeh? Olam Hazeh is a physical life. Olam Haba is a spiritual life. So you say, if you give someone life in physical, Hashem will give you life in the spiritual. It makes sense. That's, Hashem gives payments in spiritual. That's his bank account. You can do both. That's a little better. And we do stuff in physical. So if you do acts of kindness, you give someone physical life, he gives you spiritual life. That makes sense. But to say if I give someone physical life, I get the ain't safe. I get God's infinite light. It's like saying, because you gave $1 here, I'm giving you $2 trillion. It's not. It's one thing if you say, you know what? I'm much bigger than you because you gave $1. I'm going to give you $1,000. I'll give you $10,000, but not $1 trillion. He says the reward that you get by davening, this experience, that a light that we said at the beginning of the chapter is above the world, higher than the world, even higher than all the angels. We said in last week, 2 weeks ago, all the angels, that it's higher than everything else. That's what shines during davening. For giving a quarter, you get that. I understand if I give a quarter, you say I get Elam Haba. Fine, I gave him life, you gave me life. But such a response, that's not even Mida Keneged anymore. That's like way out of perspective. That's the next question. 3 lines in the bottom, third word. Ella, this doesn't seem to be matching up, what do they say? When somebody attacks Israel, they say that it wasn't, not perspective. The response was too much. I have a word for it. Mm-hmm. It was disproportionate response. Thank you. It was a disproportionate response. Hashem, that's a disproportionate response. I give 1/4 to tzedakah, you give me $4 billion, it's disproportionate. That's people don't think it's right, disproportionate, He says like this, it's einim and emid, it's disproportionate. It makes sense, just give him elam haba. You give tzedakah, you gave someone some physical life, Hashem gives you elam haba, get your spiritual life. It makes sense to say, I'll give you spiritual life, elam haba. That's when the souls leave the bodies after a person passes away. You sit in a special place like Gan Eden. That's not talking about the world to come. And when we talk about it, that's Elam Atchia. That's the world of coming back to life. Here we're talking about Elam Haba, the world of Gan Eden. That's what it means here. He says, so that makes sense. Give a guy a beautiful Gan Eden. Give him an extra beautiful chair in Gan Eden, good seats, full access to the bar. Give him the beautiful Gan Eden. But to give him ain't safe, to give him infinite light. It doesn't make sense that the response should be such an incredible level of light that's out of proportion. That it's going to shine, and it's going to fill light into his darkness. That seems to be like a tshuva type of gift. What is tshuva? We spoke about this. That's all. Is a tshuva, but just to recap, what's tshuva? Remember, we spoke that there's two types of tshuva a person could do. One is tshuva you do because I did something wrong. A person's born, and I made a mistake, or I did on purpose something. I lied to somebody, I cheated, ate something I shouldn't, whatever, I said something I shouldn't. All the things that we can do. Tshuva tata means I'm able to erase that completely. I'm able to come back to my pristine state as I was at birth. That is an unbelievable gift from Hashem, that if someone's sincere, he could have been a thief, he could have been eating pork on purpose, he could have been knowingly cheating or lying, or all the things that you did. But you do tshuva tata, and you're sincere, and you mean it, and you're unbelievably remorseful. Hashem will clean your slate like a newborn baby. Brand new. The famous thing I always think about, if a guy regrets all the time he ate too much food the whole summer, Hashem's okay, you're back to full fitness. You're really sorry? Okay, you're skinny again. It's like, boom, you're back to how you were before. Tshuva Ilah is not about coming clean again. It's about going to how you were before you were born. See, before a person's born, you're in absolute state of oneness with Hashem. The unity of a Jew, your closeness, it's open, close to Hashem. There's nothing separating you. When you're born, it's a very depressing experience for the soul. I was the whole time part of the big flame of godliness, and suddenly they pull you away into a body, they shove you into this physical, biological massive lump, and they say, go. And that is very, very upsetting to the soul. I was so happy to be home. Now I'm cut off. So tshuva ilah means you get to have that feeling, that truth, and you were before you were born. That's something which is very hard to reach. He says, so a person's getting tshuva ilah level. You're getting and safe. That means because you gave a coin into the charity box. I understand if you give a guy good, blessing, sweetness, you get to go to the highest levels of Gan Eden. But they get and safe Baruch Hu, to get the level of tshuva ilah that you're back. What?
Who can reach?
Not me. I'm working on the first part still. I still have weight to lose, materially and spiritually. So yeah. So basically, that's Alter Rebbe's question. You're saying it's going to be reciprocal. Reciprocal means proportionate, not in such an extreme disproportionate way. He says, "Sharei, you're giving him a gift that he gets during davening, that experience." So what happens during davening? When you say, "I will see your face," it means the soul becomes, as if you remember at the very beginning of this chapter, we said the definition of tefillah is to bond, to connect. We said tefillah comes to the word tefillah Iggeres, like repairing or putting together a broken pot, or building a pot, making it into one piece. Tefillah means to connect. You're saying that I get the experience of true connection with Hashem, oneness with Hashem, tshuva ilah, for giving a coin. It doesn't make sense. He says, like our sages tell us, another famous sentence that we had this much earlier in the Tanya, we spoke about this, and we explained the logic to it, which I'll say quickly right now, that it says one moment of doing a mitzvah in this world, putting on tefillin, lighting a Shabbos candle, is worth all of your time in Gan Eden. It says in Lamba, it means Gan Eden here. Why? So first, the point he wants to make is you see Gan Eden is relatively something not that impossible, because doing a mitzvah is bigger than Gan Eden, or better than Gan Eden. What did we say earlier in Tanya? Why is it better than Gan Eden? He says Gan Eden gets what's called we sit in the aura, in the glow of Hashem's Shekhinah, in the ziv, in the light of God's Shekhinah. That means what do we have there? Light. We have extension, not the essence. So in Gan Eden, we have the essence of God revealed. It's true. We come to appreciate it. Unlike now, we don't appreciate it at all. We get to understand it and appreciate, like, wow, I finally understand what Einstein's saying. I finally understand music. I finally understand art. I finally understand godliness. It's like amazing, but it's only art. It's a light. When someone does a mitzvah, it's atzmus, it's essence. So one mitzvah is better than all of Gan Eden. That's what we said earlier in Tanya. He said, so you see Gan Eden is something that makes sense to reach. True, it's revealed and it's open, but it's not ain't safe, it's not atzmus. You're saying that you get to experience atzmus and during davening? It's like, come on. That's this question. He says, like it's been elsewhere, Elam Haba is only an extension, a light, an aura, a radiance of godliness. It's not the essence of godliness. And therefore, it's not the ultimate. But you want to say because someone gave a coin, they get, it ain't safe? That's the question. To answer this question, we'll start doing now and finish next week, is going back to our original statement. And he says, that's why it's called Zerei Tzedakos. Now we know why it's called Zerei Tzedakos. It's something incredible about a seed. And we mentioned it earlier, but now we can go into it in a little more depth. A seed has an unbelievable, unique characteristic on two levels, both in quantity and in quality. That what it produces is disproportionate to what it was. One tiny seed, you plant stalk of corn, can have multiple ears of corn. Each ear can have multiple, corn. And the amount of corn, he said, both the amount of corn, like the kernels, both the volume, which is tremendous compared to the tiny seed, and both the content. A seed, the way it is in the ground before you plant it, is tasteless. It's like a tiny little sawdust. And this has flavor, especially two colors, sweet corn. It's so good. The juicy, nice corn. This is it's like nothing at all. How does it go? How is the fairness? Where's the fairness? I had a tiny thing and it became all that. He goes, yes, that's the power. An idea I can think about in my mind is the idea of a soda machine. What's a soda machine? Or any snack machine for that matter. Or any good sandwich machine. What's that? I was thinking of the oil sandwich machines there. What does that mean? Hashem determines, or the owner of the machine determines what you put in. But the size of the coin has nothing to do, really, with what's going to come out. That's pre-designed by the designer. Now, if you put in a quarter, like when you were younger, you got a soda. Now you put in a quarter, nothing comes out. Not enough. You put in $4, you get a soda. But basically, the idea that you could put in a quarter, out comes a sandwich. You go, 1 second. I put in a quarter, a sandwich came out. That's not proportionate. You're right, because the soda machine or the sandwich machine is prepared with all that stuff pre-installed, and we just really turn on a switch depending what coin you put in and what button you push, what will come out. Hashem designed seeds the same way. The truth is, the seed, it doesn't really matter. Hashem determined this particular seed taps into a certain spirit in the ground. And if you remember last week I spoke about that, I always wondered how this works biologically. So Steinsaltz focuses on it and spiritually. He says that Hashem put into the ground, in the time of creation, an infinite amount of power, safe into the ground. And that infinite power is released and awoken when you put a certain seed in. And certain grounds are better for others. Like it says in the times of was it by Yosef? I forgot where I saw it, that they used to be able to taste the earth and tell you what to plant. It says he could tell you, oh, this is good for grapes. This is good. Because the earth, someone who's really familiar with it knows the earth well. The bottom line is that it's not the seed that plants it. The seed lights the fire, so to speak. Another way to understand this would be, if you take a match, and this room here is full of explosives, God forbid, let's say it's better, it's in Gaza, it's full of explosives, and you put a match to it, and the whole room goes up. How did that one little match, it's a tiny match, the entire building went, the whole city went? Yeah, because the match, that was all there before. The match is not the fire. So the Rebbe is going to give an insight, this Alter is giving an insight in this chapter, that tzedakah is one of those seeds that wakes up the power within the ground, the power that's within the infinite godliness. Just like a seed that you put into the ground wakes up a resource that's unbelievable, that was unexpected. Yes, it's tzedakah is the same way. You give a coin, it's one particular mitzvah that's called a seed. You plant a coin, you will be shocked what comes out. The level of blessings and light and godliness and infinite gifts from above, it's because it's not the coin, it's not the mitzvah, it's not the thing, it's what that touched. Let's see this inside to start off. And that's why it could make that experience in davening. That's why it's called tzedakah. That's why it's called planting. When someone plants seeds in general means seeds of like a field. Or Nathan gardener plants seeds. These seeds really mean seeds like trees and other things. Sorry? Plants. Yeah, but both Zerayim and Garma are two types of seeds. One is usually referred to as like farming and land, and one's referred to like trees and bushes and stuff. That the shibolis is corn. The stalk, actually this is the stalk, that the stalk that grows from the zera, and the tree which comes from the garden, the seed, it is not at all from the essence and the identity of the seed. We have a concept that's a very big deal in Chassidus. It's a very fundamental deal in Chassidus, that before the seed can grow into a plant or seedling, it has to rot. The seed has to rot completely, disintegrate, fall apart, and then it grows. So there's a stage one is plant the seed. Stage two, it rots. Stage three, it starts growing. And the question is, 1 second, how's that possible? If it rots, what's going to grow? You can't, it's a famous story. You can't have a chicken come from a hard-boiled egg. You can't plant cooked peas. You can't get something from nothing. You have to have the seed. What do you mean it rots? I mean, you take it away and then it grows? That's great. Here, I'll put it out. He says that's the bittul awakens that bittul, that experience. This is what's used all the time to explain for a person to reach a higher level of relation with Hashem, you have to have bittul. Because you get in the way. Your essence, it doesn't mean your physical body. Your ego, your sense of self gets in the way of you relating to Hashem. As soon as you could have absolute bittul and you sort of disintegrate yourself, your whole yeshus is gone. Your limits are endless, infinite, because no longer your own powers. It's like someone's trying to work with hydraulic power and he's using his muscles. Hello, forget your muscles, get out of the thing, go into the truck and push the button. Because as long as you're using your muscles, you can't do anything. You have to go out of that and realize it's not about you. It could be a little kid pushing the button because it's not you anymore. You have nothing to do with it. We'll just tell you which button to push and hydraulics take over. This is the vart. So the seed has to disintegrate completely. So you see something incredible. What grows from the tree is not the seed. So why plant the seed? Why do you put the seed in if it doesn't grow? It's like, for an example, a soda machine. They have soda machines. I just was looking online a while ago about buying one, and they're programmed for free. You get a soda machine for free. Just go push a button and the soda comes out. You can create tokens for it. You could decide, but that has nothing to do with what comes out. In other words, the seed that you put in the ground is not what makes it grow. It's what type of eliciting it's going to call out. But the actual growth doesn't happen from the seed. It happens from that seed awakened to a certain thing. This type of seed awakens that. This type of seed awakens that. But the growth is not from the seed. And the proof is in the taste, in the quality, and the words of Steinsaltz. He says, don't think that the trees are somehow contracted. Now, I'm not getting into the biology of it and the science of it because I'm not that. And I don't know how to explain the DNA of a seed, all that stuff. And we know that the same thing is true, by the way, of creating a child. And he's going to reference that in a minute. And the same thing is true. Now, we know the DNA of a seed is going to produce a certain type of tree. You have seeds for apples that are Granny Smiths. You have Crunchy Delicious. You have, whatever the different names of apples are, honey, whatever. So there is a relationship, and this is something which I have to discover more for the next couple of classes, how to understand the relationship. But there is a relationship with the type of seed, but not that anything comes from the seed itself. It's actually all coming from the ground. Hashem put the power, and this is the miracle of the ground, and this is something spiritual. There is a physical dimension to it as well, but I don't understand that, so I'm not going to try and explain it. So, but the bottom line is that this is what it says here, that there's a power that's nothing to do with me, the seed, all about the response from above. And let's just finish these two lines here. He says, the actual seed itself is completely rotten, disintegrates. But it's only the power of growth that's found in the ground. Other times it's atzmoi. That is that which actually makes the tree or the cornstalk or the fruit grow was the power of the ground. It wasn't the seed. It's just that the earth won't give its secret forth, won't tell you what it has, won't release its power. and only will start giving forth its yield, what the land can give. It's the land. When the seed is put there and it starts to rot, and it loses all its strength, it gets lost into the ground, into the power of growth that's found in the earth, and they become one. That power that was there originally in the seed becomes part of the experience of the earth, and they come actually to a spirit of one. This is again very similar to the experience of the creation of a child. And this creates to draw out, I'll say it again, this power of growth that is there pulls forth as from a potential state to an actual state. And it starts giving forth life. That means this in the earth, this power of growth that's found in the earth. To grow a stalk, it's taka similar to the seed. It's the same if it was a corn seed or if it was peas, etc. But with much, much more in quantity, which is found even in one stalk. There's much more on that stalk, amount of ears of corn, etc., that is found in that seed. Same thing with many fruit on one tree. That's in the quantity. And not only the quantity, but the quality of the essence and the character of the fruit. It has a much better quality. Much, much greater. It's much greater than the seed that was planted. In other words, that what you're getting is disproportionate completely. The same thing is true by the fruit of the earth, which are really vegetables, which come from the seeds that they plant. Are similar to these seeds, like cucumbers and other things. It's funny, in English he says cucumbers, but he says zucchini. He says zucchini here. I think in modern Hebrew they say kshur is zucchini. In the Gemara, kshur usually means cucumbers. Sometimes it actually means what's the whole family of gourds? It's squash. Sometimes it means squash. Depends. It's a yeah. And the reason is because the primary life force of the fruit is not coming from the seeds, is nishba mikeach hatzemeach shebe'aretz hakoil l'chayis kol ha'pedes. It's actually growing from the source, the power of growing, of growth, of produce that's found in the earth. And this seed and this other type of seed that's planted in the ground is only like an awakening from below, which is called waking up the feminine waters. And we'll start from this next week. The last two lines here, understand the idea of the feminine waters, because this is a very, again, in Chassidus, we have everything in the world is either masculine or feminine, and each one has a natural role and a resulting role. So that we'll talk about next week, I believe. But again, this is a beautiful concept. So why does the little amount of tzedakah work? It's disproportionate. That's the beauty Hashem gave it, the blessing of seeds, of planting. And that's why it's called Zeriyat Tzedakah.
So how come we don't see it so much
You mean the result? First of all, I don't see it, but some people in this room see it. Second of all, I think in general, the darkness in our generation is much more. I'm not sure if any of you are learning the Maimar Basi Lagani, the Shabbos, is Yishvat.
And for sure, that generation that he was writing for.
But they were holier.
They were holier, but for tzedakah that they...
Oh, you mean the blessings? I thought you were about the experience of davening. I thought you were about the I think we see it in different ways. I'll tell you like this. A lot of times, I wonder if I saw the result of a thing. For example, just recently, one of my someone had a very small fender bender, very small, but it cost a few $1,000s to repair. It's costing me, so whatever, because there was one of my kids driving the car. But bottom line is, my first reaction was Baruch Hashem. Why? Here it goes on the world. I saw what happened this week to this young man, 43 years old. I see all different things. I see car accidents that have terrible results. I say, you know what? Baruch Hashem, thank you. So for what I know is I could say I gave tzedakah, and I don't see the millions. Or I don't know, is that there was something negative supposed to happen that really wasn't good. And because of the tzedakah, it flipped around completely. We don't know the whole story. So we don't always know the accomplishments, but tzedakah works. The questions that we see, there were times I saw it, by the way, physically in my life that I gave tzedakah, and I saw a reciprocal amount 10 times, almost like magically. And there are times that I'm like, okay, I've been giving a lot of tzedakah recently, but where am I seeing the blessings? And suddenly something happens. You know what? Thank God it wasn't worse. So it's very hard to know where we're getting blessed. We don't know what was supposed to happen and what that happened. But we don't see always. One of the points of the Basi Lagani Maimon, which is so amazing, and it's really something we should really find a chance to learn it together. Because this year's Basi Lagani from any year is so personally negate to our generation applicable. Because the whole point is about darkness, and not darkness, I don't mean physical darkness, I mean the darkness of exile and challenges and pain, how they seem to be at glance such a darkness. And the Maimer explains that this is the ultimate revelation of Hashem. In the darkness, that's why Dubi gave his class to the Maimer class called I didn't understand the name of the class, the Maimer. It says, how to see darkness in a new light. The whole point of the Maimer is that for Hashem to do concealment, he has to do a much greater expression of self and to do revealment. I mean, to be seen, to reveal himself and make himself present, that's easy. That's his natural state. To be concealed is unnatural. And to do it, Hashem, this is like a very simplified concept. Hashem has to do an unbelievable revelation of his deepest essence. That means whenever you see darkness, you're actually seeing God's essence being revealed, because it wouldn't happen without it. So whenever Hashem wants to reveal his essence in the deepest way, he does it by creating darkness. That's the biggest trick. So you might say, 1 second, thank you. I'd rather not have it. You're right. But this is the chapter 26 in Tanya, if you remember it, says that two types are good. There's good, like you go over to a little kid and you say, here's your bicycle, I'm taking it away from you, and I'm giving you a stock worth $10 million. And the kid's mad at you. You're the worst man in the world. You'll thank me one day. No, I won't. Why? Because my world, whenever it's out of our limit, as long as we understand it, that means it's child play goodness. We don't understand it, now we're talking godly levels. We don't see it. It says again, the Rebbe always finished off these Farbrengens and these sichas saying, nevertheless, should be revealed good. Hashem could do it both ways. But at the end of the day it's very possible the darkness we're seeing now, and it's not very possible. I think it's true clearly from, I listened to many shir in the last few weeks. I think it's clearly a preparation for the revelation of Mashiach, that we're getting now the biggest and most greatest revelations. Unfortunately, no one wants it to happen to them. We don't want it to happen to anybody we know. But the experience that we heard and saw in the last while, these are absolute revelations of godliness that are unbelievable, except they're unbelievably painful. I heard the Rebbe when Mrs. Lapine was murdered. That's a woman you probably remember in 1992. There was an attempt. It was a burglary in her house. 92. Yeah. It was Adar. It was Adar 91. Could be.
I took care of the kids afterwards.
You did? For some reason, I think it's 92, but whatever. It's not important, but you're probably right. In any case.
Whatever. It's 92. I was here. Maybe in the beginning of 92.
Yeah, it was Adar. It was whatever the case is. I sort of remember when it happened, but again, my life is confusing. Confused with some dates. But she was a woman. She came into her house as a person was breaking into the house, local, one of the African Americans in Grand Heights. And when he saw her, he decided he's also going to try to rape her. She defended herself and she was killed. And she died in the process. And she was lying on the floor there. Her kid came home from school and actually climbed through the window and saw her mother on the floor. It's a very, very crazy story.
He was in her house 2 days before.
He came in early, this guy.
He did something for her, fixed something for her. His card was on the table.
Oh, yeah. Sicko. But the bottom line is, the Rebbe spoke a sikha there. He said, I know the Eibishter has an enjoyment in Mesiras Nefesh, but genug, enough. There's enough suffering. He was like, I know, God, this is like in your world, this is a great thing, but it's enough. And that's the Vart. I'm not going to just any bad stuff that happened to the Jews in the last, years. But at the end of the day, on a deep, profound, I don't want to say philosophical level, but true level, it's a revelation of the highest level of godliness. Just something that human beings can't experience, can't enjoy. For us, it's the most painful experience. Darkness, it hurts, and it's in every level. All the stories you hear, it's the most painful thing for us. But on a deep spiritual level, it's God's presence is most here.